So one of the most common problems when it comes to sleep is that of getting to sleep and getting to sleep nice and fast. In an ideal world and from a good health and good sleep perspective, we should be getting to sleep within 10 to 15 minutes of our head sleeping the pillow. But an awful lot of people, that isn't the case. Some people it takes a little bit longer than that, but some people it takes a lot longer than that, maybe several hours. And there are a number of reasons for this. So in this video, I wanted to share with you 5 main tips that can really help you to get to sleep much faster. So first of all, let me explain why most people have this problem. Basically, it comes down to overstimulation. Overstimulation of the mind, of the body, or both. And if our bodies or minds are too stimulated, this is the wrong signal, the wrong environment to encourage sleep in the body, to encourage the release of the different hormones and processes that take place that support sleep. So if your body is overstimulated or your mind is overstimulated, then it's not any wonder you're going to have problems sleeping. Now, sometimes this can be happening because you're not even aware of it's happening, because there's other things going on that you aren't even aware of. So, that could be what's going on in your environment, in your lifestyle choices, nutrition. That could be also down to what's going on internally in your body. There may be biochemical imbalances. There may be things going on in your gut that are creating this stimulating effect to your body that you're not even aware of. So what I'm about to talk with you about now may not necessarily help everybody, because if you've got these internal issues going on, then it's not going to necessarily help you. But for most people, 95% of people watching this video, this is what I'm going to share with you is going to help. So the first thing is to do with circadian health. Now, circadian health, I've talked about in other videos, but you want to get that right. So before we even get to the 5 tips, that's the number one thing to be addressing first, because unless you're getting that in a good balance, then everything else is just like superficial on top. That's the core, that's the foundation of good quality sleep, getting your circadian rhythm healthy and in balance. So watch my other videos on that and you'll better understand how to do that. So in this video though, I'm going to give you 5 additional tips that can complement what supports your circadian rhythm and will help you get to sleep much faster. So the first thing is to start to slow down the brain. So this is one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle, because most of us are functioning at 100% in gear 5 all day long, and we need to slow down. And so one of the most effective ways to help slow the brain down is through our breath. Our breath actually regulates brain function, believe it or not. When we affect our breath, we affect the way our brains function. So by slowing down our breath and a particular component of the breath, we can start to slow down the brain and the brainwave patterns so that we can influence our internal environment, our brain function to support sleep and get into sleep much faster. So one simple way to do this is to elongate the out breath. When we elongate the out breath, it actually affects the nervous system and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system we want, or the part of the nervous system that we want to be most active when we're about to go to bed and go to sleep. So how do we do that? The simplest way to do that is to imagine you're breathing through a straw when you breathe out. So just close your lips nice and tightly. So you're just breathing out. There's a small hole in your lips as you breathe out. And then you breathe in normally and breathe out. And that will help to slow down the out breath a lot longer, double, triple the length of your inward breath. And when you do this, over a few minutes, that's all it takes, 4 or 5 minutes of doing this, and your brain will switch modes. Your nervous system will switch modes and you will be in a much better state to sleep. So that's the first thing, the breath. Tip number 1, the breath. Tip number 2 is caffeine. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6, 7 hours. So when we drink caffeine, even if it's 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, it's still affecting us a lot 50% in fact by 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night when we're about to go to sleep. How much it affects us varies between individual, but we need to be reducing caffeine. This is the reason why this is important, is because the way caffeine works is it blocks receptors in the brain for a hormone or a chemical known as adenosine, and this adenosine accumulates in our bodies throughout the day, helps us to make us tired and sleepy. And when we drink caffeine, what we end up doing is we block the receptors in the brain for this adenosine, so our brain doesn't get the message that we're actually tired. So this is why it's so important to start to eliminate caffeine, whether it's from coffee, which is the main source, but even things like black teas, and even things like green teas or decaffeinated coffee, dark chocolate, anything like that, particularly in the last 6, 7, 8 hours of the day, because it can be affecting our sleep. So this is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is gratitude. The reason gratitude works is one of the main reasons most of us, our brains are so busy towards the end of the day, is we get ready for bed, we lie in bed, and then we get the opportunity to shut down, and suddenly our brain kicks in, our subconscious starts bringing up all these things that we didn't do that we needed to do, all the things that are not working, all the reasons to worry and stress and get anxious. So one of the best ways to combat this is to shift mode again, and the best way to do that, or one of the best ways to do that, is to just simply get in a state of gratitude. And what I mean by that is simply start getting present to write down. This works really well if you write it down, what you're grateful for in your life. And when you do that, you switch the brain, you switch your thought patterns into an environment that's much more conducive of sleep. So simply keeping taking a journal and writing down the things that you're grateful for can be super helpful in pre-preparing the mind and therefore the body for sleep as well. So we've talked about breath, we've talked about caffeine, and we talked about gratitude. So tip number 4 is eliminating blue light. Now I'm not going to go into the reasons why blue light, why we need to avoid it, because I've talked about that in other videos. But eliminating blue light is so important, because if we're exposed to lots of blue light before sleep, we're just going to be way overstimulated and we're going to have a hard time sleeping. So eliminating blue light sources, using things like candlelight in the hour or two before bed, can create a much better environment for you to sleep much more deeply. So that's tip number 4. And tip number 5, the final tip, is to use magnesium, specifically magnesium oil. So magnesium oil actually isn't an oil, but it's a spray that contains magnesium that you spray on your skin, that's absorbed very quickly into the skin, into the bloodstream, and magnesium has the effect on the nervous system of shutting things down. So it's great as a muscle relaxant. It's also really great for helping to quieten the brain and the mind. So taking in some magnesium in your half an hour or so before you go to bed, best way is through magnesium oil. You will start to quieten and prepare your body for sleep. So I would try the other things first before getting too dependent on things like supplements. But this is a backup plan. This is a 5th thing to try. So tip number 5, magnesium oil. So just to quickly recap, I've talked about gratitude, I've talked about caffeine, I've talked about blue light, I've talked about magnesium oil, and I've talked about the breath. Any one of those things, try them all, even better, but do any of those things and you will see a noticeable improvement, I promise you, in the quality of sleep that you have, how quickly you fall asleep as well. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found what I've shared in this video really useful, and I will catch you in future videos.